Welcome home. And now that we're in the church, I just wanted to, as we get started, point out some of the things that you'll see here in the vestibule, important signs for all of us to pay special attention to. Right at the very beginning, here in the vestibule, before you even enter the church, you'll see signs posted. The first one that I want to highlight is the one that says, "Welcome home," because indeed, St. Cecilia's is our spiritual home. And as we prepare ourselves to enter into the Lord's house, our home, you see that it is very important for us to, first of all, wear a facial mask. A facial mask, facial covering is required of everyone according to CDC regulations for all those 2 years old and up. Also, we have to remember to be socially distant from one another. You know, as a church, as a community of faith, we're really a family. And it's really unnatural for members of the family not to want to embrace one another and hug one another, and yes, even to kiss one another. But that's something we're not allowed to do at this particular point in time. So these two signs are very important. Facial covering must be worn at all times in church, and there's only one time that we won't wear the facial covering, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit when we speak about the reception of Holy Communion. And then the second thing that's very important is that we keep socially distant. And I'll show you how we are helping you to keep socially distant when we enter into the church. Also, you're going to see signs that are posted like we enter through the center aisle and we exit through the side aisle. You're going to see the markings on the floor in the church where we're going to enter the church through the center aisle, as most of us do, and we're going to leave the church via the side aisles. And you know that once again, just to reiterate, all of us need to enter the church through the front entrance, through the front doors. The side doors of the church will remain locked. However, you can exit through the side doors as you leave church. The doors are such that you can leave at any time in the event of an emergency. It's just that they are locked from the outside. You know, this table is normally the one that's reserved for our bulletin distribution and other things that we'd like to hand out to you. But during these times, we are not going to be making anything available for you to take. However, this place, you will be able to find some tissues, some hand sanitizers, so I do bring that to your attention. As we go further this way, you'll note that the former baptistry is the place too that over the last couple of years has become a votive room where you have the ability to light a candle and to say a prayer. In our Padre Pio Room, this room has been closed and will be closed indefinitely. You know that our cry room is normally reserved for families who have young children, who sometimes young children fuss a little bit when they're seated in the General Assembly. And so we have this room that is available to them to quiet children down a little bit. And indeed, our children are important and we need them here in the church. And I'm so happy to see our young ones here in church. However, the cry room is not going to be available to you, at least for a little while, Mom and Dad. So you're going to have to sit together all as a family in the nave of the church. The cry room is going to serve as our confessional. And you know that we have confessions on Saturday before the 4:30 Mass. Confessions are at 3:30 to 4 o'clock. And then right before the 7 o'clock evening Mass on Saturday, confessions are from 6:30 to 6:45. So again, when there is confession available, the door will be open, it will be unlocked, and other times it will remain locked so that people do not have the opportunity to go into that small space where social distancing becomes a little bit of a problem. As you have been going to the store, you know that, and doing your grocery shopping that is, that our supermarkets, the aisles have become one way in order to facilitate people's social distancing from one another rather than congregating. We've had to do the same thing here in our church, and as you come into the church, you'll note that we have blue arrows on the floor indicating that it's through the center aisle that we enter into the church. You're going to notice also as we swing over here to my right, to your left, that we have another arrow indicating that you're to exit through the side door. Okay? So nobody exits the church from the center aisle. We only enter the church through the center aisle. And we always exit the church through the side aisle. As we come into the church, you're going to notice that following the protocols that were given to us by the diocese, we've had to cordon off some pews. And we've done that, of course, with blue tape. And it is these pews that have the blue tape across them that you're not to sit. I'd like you to take a look at some of the creative and wonderful verbiage, if you will, that is on these signs. They're scriptural, and they bring, I think, a lightheartedness to all of us when you read them. As an example, if I can just read this one, it says, Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born, and still we wouldn't let him sit in this pew if he was here. Find somewhere else. Isn't that cute? So there are different scriptural passages or thoughts that are being brought to mind that bring a little bit of lightheartedness to us as we deal now with the new norm here in our church. As we make our way down, you're going to also see that the collection basket will always be here in the church in the aisle, in the center aisle, next to our baptismal font. According again to the protocols that we've received, the ushers are not permitted to pass the basket. So what I ask you to do is that when you come into the church down the aisle, that you would, before you go to your seat, if you would place your offering in this basket. And as your pastor, I want to remind you of how important your offerings are, especially during this time. And I really appreciate your generosity and the goodness that you show to us, to our church, to our parish, so that we might be able to meet our expenses. You'll see also on the floor that there is tape indicating where 6 feet is, okay? And so we would like you to keep this distance from one another as you proceed in a single file down to receive Holy Communion. And I'll be speaking to you about receiving Holy Communion as we make our way down the aisle. As you can see, the sisters and I are in one pew. If we were all single people, we would be 4 in a pew. Families, of course, can gather closer, okay? But those who are not family should be distanced themselves. Also, you'll notice that when you come into our church, all of the hymnals have been removed. And as I mentioned the removal of the hymnals, please note that it's also been advised that singing not take place. Thank God we're going to have music here in the church. Downstairs in Hayes Hall, there will be no music, but here in the church, there will be music for the masses. And however, we are encouraged not to sing. We're told by the CDC that the virus can spread through the vapors and droplets that come from our mouths, and especially when we open them to sing. And so it would be best for us not to do that. And so that's one of the reasons why the hymnals have been taken from the church. For the reception of Holy Communion, in the past, we always followed the procedure where we had two lines and people walked down the center aisle side by side. That is no longer the way in which we come forward to receive Holy Communion. You must come single file and maintain a 6-foot distance between one another, so that if there is not enough space, then please remain in your pew until space becomes available, so that we can maintain a 6-foot distance between one another. Again, we approach Holy Eucharist by coming down single file, not in two lines, but in one line, single file. The reception of Holy Communion is something that I know all of you have longed for all of these many months. And now that we're going to be able to receive Holy Communion, we need to be mindful, I think, of two things. And the first is the reception of the Eucharist itself from a liturgical point of view, and also the reception of the Holy Eucharist from the point of view of the protocols that we've received from the diocese. So regarding the first point, you know that the reception of Holy Communion is given to us in two particular forms. One is that the traditional way of receiving Holy Communion with opening your mouth and the priest placing the sacred host on your tongue. And of course, the second option is to receive Holy Communion in the hand. We are not going to be distributing Holy Communion on the tongue, and that is only going to be for as long as these restrictions are enforced. We will be returning to that traditional way of receiving Holy Communion. However, right now it is beneficial for all of us, and let me say that again, it is beneficial for all of us that we receive Holy Communion in the manner of placing out our hands, as Saint Cyril of Jerusalem, 4th century bishop, tells us that we should stretch out our hands and to prepare them as a throne to receive our Lord. That you would place your right hand under your left, that the priest or the religious sister, and those are the only two ministers now who are going to be giving out Holy Communion until the restrictions are lifted, that the priest or the religious sister, when they place the sacred host on your hand, that then you will take it and place it into your mouth. Also, we are mandated to sanitize the church after each Mass. And with the help of my volunteers, we hope to do that and accomplish that very important task here in the church as well as downstairs in Hayes Hall, so that the next group of worshipers that come for the Mass will be able to come and find the building to be in order and according to the recommendations of the CDC. During this time of restrictions, we are suppressing the use of lay people to help us in the ministry of altar server, lector, and extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. So we will not be using, as an example, altar servers, nor will we be using extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion or someone reading the lections for us at Masses. Rather, all of those tasks will be handled by the priests, by seminary and angel, or by the religious sisters who are with us. And this restriction is in hand until the time when these things will be eased and that we might be able to return to our normal way of life. You know, it's very important that you adhere to the directions that are posted on the signs that are throughout our building. And I know all of you, and I know that I can count on your cooperation and your support in adhering to the directives that are printed for our safety. Please know also that, you know, downstairs renovation work has begun for our restrooms. And so we have one restroom that is available. In addition to that, it was recommended also in the protocols sent out by the diocese that the use of the restroom or the facility should be only for extreme necessity. And so I would ask you, mom and dad especially, to make sure that children use the bathroom facilities at home before coming to church. Again, the facility, the one facility that we have up and running will be used only for necessity only. So I ask for your cooperation in that regard. Our second site for this Holy Mass on Saturday in the afternoon and evening for the Vigil, as well as Sunday in the morning, is going to be here in Hayes Hall. Now, many of you are so familiar that we used to use Hayes Hall as our Mass site when the church was being renovated a few years ago. And I remember the many nice comments that people said that Hayes Hall was like a very warm place to celebrate the Eucharist, that it was very cozy, if you will. So we're going to come back to this cozy place again to have an opportunity to celebrate the Holy Mass. And again, as you come to the church, you need to come through the front door. And as you come through the front door, you can make your way down the steps. And you have to be very careful. The steps are a little steep, so you want to hold on to the handrails firmly. And as you come down, you'll be greeted by, of course, the collection basket. And you know that for the pastor, this is one of the most important things in the church. I'm only joking, of course. But it's only through your generous offerings that we're able to keep the church alive in a material world in which we live. So I'm always so grateful to you for your offerings. But if you would, again, place your offering here in the basket as soon as you come in. The basket will not be passed since there's not an offertory procession during these particular times. You'll know that when you come into Hayes Hall, first of all, let me point out the table in the corner of the room. That table will have some things on it that there's some hand sanitizer, there is some facial tissues. If there's something else that I need to share with you or whatever, it would be placed on that table. The altar area and the ambo is something that is a familiar feature for us when we celebrate Mass here in Hayes Hall. What is different, however, is the configuration of the chairs, as you'll see. We've placed chairs independently, and under each chair is a piece of blue tape. And we placed the blue tape there simply because after everyone leaves, then when we sanitize this area for the next Mass, that we will know where to place the chairs. Now, does that mean that families have to sit distant from one another? No, it doesn't. You can move this chair around. You can move these chairs around. Mom and dad, husband and wife can sit together, okay? It's only those who are coming to church independently, okay, solo or a spouse, and, you know, a married couple, I should say, without their children perhaps, then of course you would want to be distant from one another, unless of course you live together. Okay? So that's why the chairs are situated in this particular style. Don't forget, when Mass is over, you will be exiting through the two side exits. You will not be going back up the stairs, but you'll be going through the two side exits. Also know that down here for Mass, I am not going to provide any musical accompaniment. So the Mass is going to be without musical accompaniment, and since the diocesan protocol is advising us not to sing, so we will not even be singing anything a cappella. Okay, it will be just a spoken Mass. So if one of the younger priests has the Mass, I'm sure it'll be finished in about 30 minutes. If your pastor has the Mass, it might be about 50 minutes. No, I'm only joking. I hope to be brief as well. The other thing, too, I want to mention to you as you're exiting, in event that we have someone who's handicapped coming to worship with us here in Hayes Hall, you know that through the kitchen door, and maybe we should take a walk there, Father Matt?
Okay.
You'll see that there's a handicapped entrance. And the handicapped entrance is accessible through the kitchen door. And we'll make our way there. And you'll see that in the handicapped entrance, there's a ramp. There are also steps. And there's also what they call an elevator, which is like a little lift. Let me put the light on so that you can see better. It's a lift. And of course, it can be accessed by pressing the buttons here. The door for to enter into the handicap area is here. So it's at the back of the building. Okay, again, since we're in Hayes Hall, you know that the protocols that are established up in the church must also be maintained down here. Means that we must wear our masks for the entire Mass, except when we receive Holy Communion, and we must be socially distant from one another. So that's something that's very, very important. Also, when it's time for Holy Communion, since it is a smaller congregation that will be assembled down here, what will be is that you're to remain in your place and not to move around. The priest or the religious sister will come to you to give you Holy Communion. And again, we are receiving Holy Communion on the hand and following the same protocol as is upstairs, that you are to, the priest or the sister will have their facial covering on. When they come to you, you should take your facial covering off, place your hands as a throne to receive the bread of life, put the Holy Eucharist into your mouth, make a reverence with the sign of the cross, and place your mask back on. The priest will then move on to the next available communicant. We will not be having our choir function either during this time. And so music will be provided by our music minister, Chuck Linnell. No one will be allowed in the choir loft with him. No one will be asked to sing, because singing is something that we have been discouraged from doing as a result of this pandemic, with the concern that droplets or vapors that can be emitted from our mouths can transmit that virus. So again, the ministry of choir member is also suspended at this time. We begin on Saturday with the first masses to celebrate the Lord's Day, the Vigil Mass beginning at 4:30, which will have music as we do, meaning Chuck playing the organ. 7 o'clock will be as it has been without music in the evening on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, we have our masses at 8 o'clock, 9:15, 10:45, 12:15, and then the Vietnamese Mass is also coming back as it has in the past been celebrated at 5 o'clock, so too beginning this week as well. You know that CCD classes are suspended, children's liturgy of the word, all of that is not taking place. Coffee hour that we normally do has been suspended. All of these things right now have been suspended. We're just here for the Holy Mass, and I know that you're very happy about all of that. I just want to say how grateful I am to God that He has brought us to this point, that we might be able to enter into His house to offer Him thanks and praise for the blessings He gives us. I want to thank our Bishop Saratelli, who's now our apostolic administrator, kind of overseeing things until July 1st, when Bishop-elect Kevin J. Sweeney will be ordained a bishop and will be installed as the 8th Bishop of Patterson. And we're looking forward to Bishop Sweeney coming here to St. Cecilia's to be with us and to celebrate the Holy Mass with us as well. I'm grateful to the sisters and to Angel, who have helped to prepare the church as it is. I'm so grateful to Father Cirillo for his constant support. And above all, I just want to say how grateful I am to Father Matt. His capabilities, his genius, his creativity, and his inspiration for me is the thing that has, I think, been the driving force for all of this. So I just want to say how thankful I am to Father Matt as well. And I can't wait to see all of you here in our church. Remember again that Holy Mass, the obligation has been suspended. You do not have to come to Mass on Sunday. You may stay home and watch it on live stream. If you feel uncomfortable, stay home. You can watch it on live stream. If you are not feeling well, definitely stay home. You are not supposed to be coming to church or anywhere when you're sick or not feeling well. You should be staying home and relaxing and recuperating at home. I also want to tell you that, you know, there may be a little bit of a change in our live streaming. And I'm going to let you know about that through Flocknote and also through the announcements on over the weekend at the Masses, as well as on our parish website. We're going to let you know about the change in live streaming. We're still going to live stream the Mass, but it's probably not going to be at 12:30. It'll be at a different time. So I'm not going to indicate one way or the other what time it's going to be right now, because I have to speak with my confreres about that. So as soon as we make a decision about that, we'll let you know. So again, welcome home, welcome to St. Cecilia's, and I can't wait to see you over the weekend. God bless you.